We've got a 27-year-old Canadian woman now living in Hanover, Germany, with her German husband, Peter.
Okay.
They've got one kid, another girl on the way, and some serious in-law friction.
Sounds like a classic setup for complications.
Oh, just wait. The title is, Am I the Asshole for Not Telling My Husband's Family That I Speak Their Language? My husband, Peter, 29 male, and I, 27 female, have been married for about 3 years. We have one child together, and I was pregnant with our second. I'm Western Canadian while he is from Germany. We lived in Canada for a long time, but because of inflation, moving back to Germany seemed like a better option for us. We bought a nice house in Hanover, where Peter is from. The day after our flights to Germany, we all visited Peter's family. This was the second time I have seen them. The first was at our wedding. They greeted us and brought us inside of the house, fussing over my son. We had dinner, and soon we left the house, wanting to settle into our new home. We visited Peter's family often for the next few months. But I had started to realize that they would sometimes speak about me in German. They would make rude comments on my hair and makeup, question my fashion choices, and overall were just very unkind to me. They also said mean things about my pregnant belly, which I was already insecure about.
Oof. Right off the bat, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. It continues. I ended up talking to my husband about this. I told him that I didn't like the way that they were treating me. I said that I hated how my every choice was judged. He told me that he would talk to his family. The next time that we went to his parents' house, there were no more mean comments. For about 3 months, it was like nothing ever happened.
Okay, so intervention seemed to work. Temporarily, at least.
Same too.
Yeah.
Then I gave birth to a perfect baby girl that we named Lilith. Peter's family was very upset when they heard the name. If you didn't know, Lilith means ghost or of the night. We didn't pick this name because of its meaning, but because it is a name that every girl in my family has had for many years. My middle name is Lilith, along with my mom's, my grandma's, and even my great-grandma's.
The name issue, a cultural significance clash right there.
Totally. For a while, I didn't visit my in-laws. I didn't want to hear them talk about how I shouldn't have named my daughter Lilith. But yesterday, we saw them again. It was my mother-in-law's birthday. As soon as we showed up, things started to go badly. Everybody wanted to hold Lilith, which made my mother-in-law upset because people weren't paying attention to her and made me overwhelmed.
Postpartum, new baby, birthday party, a stressful mix.
You bet.
Yeah.
I didn't want people holding her. I was going through a pretty bad postpartum depression, and it was still pretty early to see people. I let people look at her, but declined when anyone asked to hold her.
Oh.
During dinner, I heard my sister-in-law talking to my mother-in-law in German. I heard her complaining about how she couldn't hold my baby. My sister-in-law even had the audacity to call me, and I quote, a fat, ugly, hokey addict.
Wow, that's quite an escalation. And specific.
Right. I turned to my sister-in-law and mother-in-law and told them off in German. I basically said that I have always known what they have said about me, but calling me names was the last straw. I also mentioned how I have known German for almost my whole life. The table instantly blew up. People were yelling at me because apparently this is all my fault. I left with Peter and we haven't talked to them since. So am I the asshole?
Okay. There's a lot to unpack there.
A lot. Okay, hot takes go.
Yeah.
Mine. The sheer nerve. Talking trash about someone right there, language barrier or not, that's just, wow. Basic decency, people.
Agreed. My initial reaction is just that fundamental lack of respect. Speaking negatively about someone who is present, assuming they won't understand, it shows a pretty poor character, honestly.
Right, it's peak entitlement. Like, oh, she's the foreign wife, she won't get it. Let's just dissect her appearance and her pregnant belly. Come on.
It really speaks to how they viewed her from the start, possibly as an outsider. The move to Germany probably just amplified that feeling for them and for her.
Definitely. And, okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the German speaker hiding in plain sight. OP keeping her language skills a secret for months.
That is a significant choice.
It feels a bit calculated, doesn't it? Like, was she gathering evidence?
Yeah.
Waiting for the perfect gotcha moment? It's kind of intense.
It's certainly the core of why she thinks she might be the asshole. You could interpret it different ways, though. Maybe she felt vulnerable. Maybe she wanted to see their true colors without, the filter.
Maybe. But it also feels a bit like setting a trap, letting them dig the hole deeper and deeper.
That's one interpretation. Or perhaps she was just avoiding confrontation initially and it snowballed. Withholding that information, though, for such a long time, it does raise questions about transparency.
And then the name. Lilith. Such a perfect storm. Her cherished family name. versus its meaning in German.
It really highlights those cultural disconnects, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What holds deep positive meaning in one context can be perceived very differently in another. It's a reminder that meaning isn't universal.
And her poor timing, revealing the secret weapon at the Emile's birthday dinner after the fat, ugly, hokey addict comment. Talk about dropping a bomb.
Well, that comment was the breaking point, wasn't it? It shifted from general unkindness, which she'd apparently tolerated or at least observed silently, to a direct, really nasty personal insult.
Yeah, hokey addict. We need to circle back to that phrase later. It sounds
Yeah.
weirdly specific. But the timing. At the birthday party, when she's already feeling overwhelmed, postpartum.
It's incredibly poor timing, and the insult itself is deeply unkind, especially considering her vulnerable state. It suggests a real lack of empathy from the sister-in-law.
Zero empathy. Okay, let's shift gears. Imagine we're doing our civic duty, judging humanity from the back of a lift, scrolling those Reddit comments.
Yeah.
What are people saying?
Right. Well, you can imagine the spectrum. A lot of NTA, not the asshole. People focusing entirely on the in-laws' behavior.
Like Salty Pretzel over 69, who probably said something like NTA. They treated you like dirt. You just understood the language they were using to do it.
Exactly. Comments emphasizing that the core issue was their rudeness, not her secret keeping. Saying things like, they showed their true colors, you just happen to understand the shade.
Love it. But there must be others, right?
Mhm.
The ESH, everyone sucks here crowd. Or even YTA, you're the asshole.
Oh, definitely. Plenty of people found OP's silence problematic. Like our fictional Hanover hottie might say ESH. Yeah, the in-laws were awful, but hiding your fluency for months? That's a weird game to play. It feels manipulative.
See? Manipulative. That's the vibe I got. Like a long con.
It raises questions about trust, and many commenters pointed fingers at the husband, Peter. Where was he in all this?
Seriously? Did he know she spoke German? Why didn't he tell his family? His silence is almost as loud as their insult.
That's a huge question mark. If he knew, why allow the situation to fester? If he didn't know.
Well, that points to a whole different set of issues in their own relationship, doesn't it?
Totally. Okay, what else from the comments section? Any cultural insights? Or people calling fake?
Both. Some commenters question the hokey addict phrase, saying it doesn't sound like a typical German insult. Others, claiming to be German, mention Germans are usually more direct and less likely to gossip in front of someone, even in another language.
Interesting. So maybe the phrasing is a bit off. Or maybe the SIL was just uniquely creative in her cruelty.
Could be. There was also skepticism about the timeline, the reasons for the move, the wedding details, the usual Reddit scrutiny, questioning if the story is even real.
Yeah, the fake story brigade.
Yeah.
Always reliable. But the point about Germans being direct versus this behind-the-back but-to-your-face thing is interesting.
And some pointed out that Germans often switch to English quite readily if they detect someone struggling with German, which makes the family consistently using German around OP seem, well, more pointedly exclusionary, perhaps. Good point. It makes it seem less like an assumption she didn't understand and more like they were deliberately walling her off.
That's one way to read it, certainly. And then there's the defense of OP, her right to name her child whatever she wants, her right to set boundaries about holding the baby, especially while dealing with PPD.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Regardless of the language secret, those boundaries are valid. The entitlement around the baby is a whole other layer of dysfunction.
So the comments really cover the gamut. Defending OP, criticizing OP, criticizing the in-laws, questioning the husband, questioning the story's authenticity.
A beautiful Reddit tapestry of outrage and armchair psychology. Love it.
It definitely provides a wide range of perspectives on a complex family situation.
Okay, so as our metaphorical lift ride ends, what's the final takeaway? This messy, messy situation.
Well, it really underscores the complexities of marrying into a different culture, doesn't it? The assumptions, the potential for misunderstanding, the importance of clear communication.
Or the consequences of unclear communication or, weaponized silence.
Indeed. And the husband's role remains a critical, unanswered question in mediating or failing to mediate these cultural and interpersonal clashes.
So the final thought to leave our listeners chewing on. Could this whole detonation have been avoided if OP had just said, hey, FYI, I speak German, early on?
Or was the family's behavior so ingrained that the conflict was inevitable and her silence merely changed the timing and manner of the explosion?
Right. Was her secret a strategic shield, a misguided strategy, or just a way to survive until she couldn't anymore? Lots to think about regarding honesty, family dynamics, and maybe learning the local insults just in case.
It certainly leaves you wondering about the what-ifs and the underlying motivations of everyone involved, a true interpersonal puzzle.